Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time stopping by, welcome on board. Here we are one big fam. So in today's video is actually about the Nebraskan farmers who are likely to run into bankruptcy because of the deportation policy that they had voted for, right? I did another video regarding this issue, and if you want to check it out, you can click on this link above me. So in today's video is basically almost the same thing. The Nebraska farmers are literally running into bankruptcy, and now they are crying, trying to see if they could get the black jobs back, right? We all know what the black jobs are, right? In the plantation days, right, the black jobs are usually black people tilting the farms of the concussions, right? So let's take a look.
Racism is expensive, and corporations and billionaires don't care about you. This is probably breaking news to many who support and applaud mass deportations. Well, the people in Nebraska, the state of Nebraska, is starting to find out how expensive both of those things are, how expensive racism is, and how much corporations and the billionaires don't care about the working class, minorities, poor people, black people, and other non-billionaires. Well, here we go. So I hear Nebraska is on the brink of bankruptcy. Although it seems that they have found a little band-aid to put on their self-inflicted gashing wound by choosing and supporting mass deportations, which hurts their farms because it takes away the migrant workers who, instead of waiting for ICE agents to go and round them up and jam-pack them into some of those private prisons like Core Civic, and continue to enrich the billionaires while they lose while the farmers lose their workers. The migrants decided to self-deport to places where they can be and be okay, and not be in a community and communities of people who applaud and support mass deportations. So I guess those migrants were taking people's jobs. Where are those people? Come and take the jobs. They're there. The jobs are available. Why are these states, why is Nebraska potentially going bankrupt? Why are so much of America's farming country going belly up? Yeah, racism is expensive, and like they say, F around, find out. But I hope this is a lesson to everybody that is in support of and applaud mass deportations and mass incarceration. People who, in a haste to get rid of the people they do not like or to hurt people they don't like, end up hurting themselves. With racism and xenophobia and all of these other things that were part of this past election. By the way, I'm not, although MAGA is super excited about these mass deportations, the corporate Democrats weren't too far away from them either. They were busy chasing MAGA to the right, especially on the issue of immigration. So I'm not gonna act like I didn't see it, or that it didn't happen, or that the Democratic Party wasn't campaigning on potentially doing harm to migrants and immigrants either. And at the end of the day, there was also another choice other than the corporate Democrats or MAGA and there was the Green Party. Most people probably did not pay attention to it, but if you look at their platform, it actually is in favor of the working class, is in favor of minorities, is in favor of the majority of America, to where you could see their platform is not in service of the billionaires, unlike the two major parties, the duopoly. So all that to say though, when you make choices and you make choices that hurt people, and at the same time you depend on those people, you're cutting your nose off to spite your face. And at this time, let me just ask Nebraska and everybody, because I know, I recognize everybody in America is going to be affected by farming issues. However, everybody that supports all of this bigotry, all of the mass deportations, mass incarceration, racism, racist policies, and all of that, and who are being affected now, let me just ask you to pull yourselves up by your bootstraps.
I think people will look and say, but wait a minute, they're Americans who are unemployed. Why can't you just hire them?
They don't want to come out here and work in this extreme conditions, 100+ degree temperatures, dust, hard work.
What if you paid them more?
It doesn't matter. We pay some of the highest wages for farm workers in the nation, right here in California, and they won't come out. In California, we grow about 50% of the fruits and vegetables and nuts for the country. And any shortage of food like that is going to impact everybody in the nation, because not only will food be less available, it'll be more expensive.
Manuel Cunha Jr. runs the Nice Farmers League, a trade organization representing farmers and farm workers in the Fresno area. He says Trump's promise to deport all undocumented migrants would disrupt the entire country.
If you took away my workforce, you wouldn't eat. If you go into the San Joaquin Valley and you start doing what you're saying, it's over. The country will stop. It'll literally stop, because the food system won't move.
And like Joe Del Bosque, he insists these undocumented farm workers are not taking jobs that would otherwise go to American citizens.
I don't care what you pay them. I don't care if you pay them $26 an hour. It ain't going to happen. They're not going to get up at 4 or 5 in the morning, drive to the field, and pick fruit.
For someone that had traveled to almost 48 states of the United States, I can tell you Nebraska is one of the states that I didn't really like it. It's kind of rural looking like, and it has a lot of farms, and it's just sparsely populated, and it's kind of cold, unlike the vibrant other American cities and states that I've been to. So the Nebraska farmers are one of the farmers that actually voted for Trump. They are I would say the largest amount of voters that actually voted for Trump, right? So now they voted against their own personal interest. So now that is affecting them. I think they didn't think it through. They thought, okay, maybe it was just going to be the people that we don't really like. Let's just get rid of them. But they didn't know that it was going to have a ripple effect on them, right? And now that it's digging down into their pockets, now they are running all over the place, scampering and looking for who is going to come, till their farms. And they, I guess, are hoping that black people, they would come back and take their black jobs back, right? So bigotry is very, very expensive, and whatever you do that has to do with hate is always going to come back and bite you in the right places, right? And and it's easier to want to do something in the spur of the moment, not sitting down to weigh your options, not sitting down to reevaluate your actions on how they might affect you in the long run. So I don't understand, because it is easier to like people than to dislike them. It's easier to love than to hate, right? Because whatever you do thinking that's going to hurt the other person, invariably it's going to come back and hurt you. So guys, what do you think? Leave your comments in the comment section. Let's continue with the videos, guys.
Hey guys, I hope you all had a great weekend. I wanted to drop by today to talk about the Nebraska farmers situation again. And I know a lot of us, with all of the videos we had been seeing around, or at least I had been seeing around, a lot of people were saying, Nebraska didn't care about Nebraska, and why are we supposed to care about Nebraska, and Nebraska didn't care about Nebraska? How could Nebraska vote against their best interests by voting for mass deportation of their workforce? And I was saying, why would you purposely go to get rid of your workforce and not have a backup plan for the people that you're getting rid of, especially if your business is relying on that workforce? Your hatred can't be that blinding and that overwhelming that you can't think about your bottom line, especially when it comes to your businesses. Some of these farms have been in those people's families for over 300 years. You can't tell me you did not think about who is going to come in and replace these vital workers for your survival. One thing I do keep thinking back on is Trump kept saying during this campaign that the illegals were here stealing the blacks' jobs. He just kept harping on the black jobs, and everybody was like, what the hell is a black job? Well, this is just my perspective, or it's just my thought. I'm thinking that the Virginians and all the rest of the people who were dependent on illegal immigrants for their labor, they kept hearing Trump saying that the black people jobs were being taken. I'm thinking in their minds, they were hearing Trump saying the black people are going to come back to those jobs. In my mind, I'm thinking they were hearing Trump says the black people are going to replace all those immigrants out in the fields and on the farms and all of that. I'm thinking that's what they were hearing. That's why they weren't messed up about voting to get rid of their illegal immigrants. They were thinking that the black people were going to step up and take those jobs back, because Trump kept saying these illegal immigrants are stealing the blacks' jobs. And therefore, in their mind, they heard we were getting our 1,800 slaves back. They had to have thought that their backup plan, Trump was going to miraculously, somehow, magically put all the black people back out in those fields, on those farms, and they were going to continue to get their work done. Now, that's just my thinking, because you cannot tell me that you as a business owner would get rid of your workforce and not have a backup plan. You are not going to knowingly and willingly walk into a bankruptcy, walk into losing your business, walk into losing your farms that have been in your family for 300 years unless you thought there was a backup plan. And the backup plan was supposed to be the blacks. That's why y'all ran out there and voted against your best interest, because when you heard Donald Trump said they were stealing the blacks' jobs, y'all in your twisted mind thought that the blacks were going to magically appear back in those positions. The blacks were just going to be coming from everywhere to take on those positions. You had to have thought that, because y'all not going to tell me that in your minds you were okay with losing your livelihoods, that you didn't have a backup plan to come in after the immigrants would be deported. You can't convince me that people who own those farms and worked on those farms, you cannot tell me that you looked out there and saw your workforce, and you know what your workforce is made up of. and you purposely went out there and said, yeah, get rid of all of them with no backup plan. You know what it takes to run your farms. You know how many people it takes to run your farms. There is no way you got rid of all of those people and did not expect to have somebody to come in and pick up the slack. Y'all thought y'all were getting slaves back. You had to have thought that. You had to have thought black people were going to be the ones replacing the immigrants and you would not miss a beat. But when those immigrants fled and those fields became empty and those farms became deserted, then y'all want to run around crying, does anybody care about Nebraska? Does anybody care about Nebraska? No. Let's go back. What was your thought process as to when the immigrants go, when they deport them? What was your thought process on who was going to come in and pick up that slack? Because 60% of y'all went out there and voted for Trump. So what was that 60% thinking? What was your plan B for when the immigrants are gone? Who was going to come in, step in, and pick up that workload and get your bottom and keep your bottom line moving? What was that thought process? Who were the replacements for the illegal immigrants that you guys went and voted against? Who were the replacements? You guys thought it was going to be black people. Y'all thought Donald Trump was going to magically make black people appear in y'all farms and on y'all fields to get their work done. Why? I have no idea. Other than he kept saying that they were taking the black jobs. Y'all thought that just because he said that, black people were going to be running down there to them fields? It's absolutely bizarre. You can't convince me y'all put everything, your whole life, y'all whole livelihood, generations of farms being in y'all family. You can't tell me you put that up at risk and did not have a backup plan. You can't tell me y'all purposely destroyed y'all lives and y'all farms without having a backup plan to replace the illegals. It's just not making sense. But racism never has made sense. Guys, these are some really eye-opening times we're dealing with. And another thing I want to touch on before I leave today. President Musk is really working hard to get up under the black people's skin. He's trying to find a button to push to make us hit them streets. Now he wants the government to stop funding, to stop the lease for the Obama library. And he also wants the United States government to sell our National Black Museum, one of our National Black Museums. I think it was the Montgomery Boys bus. Something to do with that. I think that's what it was. So do you see what they're doing? When the threat to pardon Derek Chauvin did nothing, now they're going for other intricacies that they know black people hold near and dear, which is telling us they are going to keep nitpicking until they can think they can get us out there. No matter what they do not give them what they're looking for. I don't care what they do at this point, but it needs to be seen the extremes they're going to go to. That needs to be seen.
Have y'all seen that lady from Nebraska? Don't worry. I'm going to put it down here. She was one of the ones who came out and said, we voted for this and we regret it. She's one of the ones that's actually remorseful, not one of the ones that's coming on here going, yes, I asked for this, but please don't tell me how it's my fault that my consequences are affecting me and not just the people I hate now. I don't want to hear it. Okay. Now that we don't care about them, but this one, they're cattle farmers, and I guess Nebraska is on track to go go bankrupt in like 2 quarters. Okay. And the most interesting part of the piece that she put up, and I'm not saying this to throw shade, I'm saying it to emphasize what's up. Okay. She says, we knew that they were going to be coming for the undocumented. And here, almost everyone's a farmer of some kind, and 70% of our workforce is immigrant labor. And while we knew they were going to be coming for the undocumented, and we knew 70% of our workforce was going to fall into that category, we still supported this. And now thinking about it, I'm going to say it one more time. And now thinking about it, they realize it didn't make sense to support something that went against their own interests and to put their support in something that is now feeding their own demise. And I appreciate her for coming on here and giving these updates and just saying, with each time, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Like, in retrospect, I can't believe I did that. In looking back, this made no sense. This made no sense. I did it anyway, knowing it didn't make sense. I appreciate her for that. Because we've got too many that are just incapable of doing that. Just incapable of saying, wow, yeah, I convinced myself to go against my own interests. Why did I do that? Like, that is work. That's self-work. Okay. And that's what we have room for. We have room for people that are like, wow, I now want to look into why I convinced myself to do something that was not going to help me. Why did I do that? We need more of that. And less people going, yeah, well, I'm just going to hold on to my hate and rage and anger, and I'm going to blame everyone else. And you know what? Yeah, I'm going to fight to keep my job. I'm getting a lawyer. Okay, I'm fighting this. I don't care if I asked for it. This isn't fair to me. It's not supposed to affect me. What about me and me and me? We don't care about them. Like I said, they can go fend for themselves. They can go fund themselves. But yeah, it's very interesting. So these states that are already on track to go bankrupt just with the policies themselves, okay? Because she's like, people aren't showing up to work. I mean, whole thing, okay? And then blue states, these cesspool states that are providing all the federal taxes, people who live in states like Oklahoma who can't afford a plane ticket out here for the weekend love to talk about how this place is a cesspool, but they need our money to survive and to support themselves. Yeah, I am all for all of these blue states holding on to their money. I'm not interested in paying this regime. I'm interested in California independence or joining Canada or almost any other country but this one. And I would love to see how states like Nebraska plan on funding themselves when we aren't the ones putting into the pot anymore. We're going to keep our dirty little blue cesspool dollars to ourselves. How about that? Like, go ahead. Give it a watch. I give her props. And keep it rolling. Because that's an area, that's a state where the administration is trying to tell you that we're traveling out there to their town halls. Okay, she's in one of the states where they're trying to tell you that it's us that are upset at the town halls. We're traveling out to cow country and removing our dreads and our blue hair to go make red legislators look bad. That's what we're doing. They wish they lived in our heads that much.
Well. So in my last video, I did a review about the same issue that I'm talking about. So it's evident that Nebraska don't care about Nebraskans, right? They only care about the people that they dislike, thinking that whatever they did, the vote that they gave to Trump was gonna invariably send them away and they wouldn't have to deal with illegal immigrants. And meanwhile, you knew illegal immigrants were the largest proportion of your workforce. Right now that you voted against them is becoming a problem right now. So now the problem is they are hoping that the normal Americans are going to come out of their 5 to 9 jobs and come tilt their farms. Like, they're not going to come out, right? They're not going to come out inside the scorching sun above 100 degrees Fahrenheit to come out and tilt your lands. They're not going to do that. They're not going to harvest. They're not going to wake up 5 o'clock in the morning to come and harvest some vegetables and some fruits. They're not going to do that. When you were voting, you should have thought about that, right? You should have thought about the fact that it's going to affect you and it's going to cause a lot of, chaos, because literally you guys are in chaos right now, so farming is hard. I've farmed before. I remember growing up, my dad used to have this big land that he farms on. We usually just go to harvest, but even the harvesting is kind of hard. So imagine going in a scorching sun above 100 degrees Fahrenheit to farm, to harvest, to do whatever. Is a hard job. But you have these people, you're underpaying them, but you still went ahead and voted for them to be deported. And now that they are being deported, all of you guys are crying. You're literally running into bankruptcy. You're literally going all over the place trying to think if you could convince the black people to come back and continue from where they stopped, from the 1820s, right? In my first videos, a lot of, black people reacting that even if you pay them $400 per hour, a lot of them will not come out to do it. A lot of them will not come out to do it. Farming is fun, is, just like I said, but it's hard at the same time. So if you have people that are actually helping you to tilt your land, if you have people that are actually helping you to harvest your, crops and all of that, you should be appreciative. Instead, you should even fight for them to get legalized. You should even fight for them to get their documents so that, they will continue with the farming. So guys, what do you think? Please leave your comments in the comments. But if you haven't subscribed by now, please hit on the subscribe button, hit on the like button, hit on the share button, and also share this video with your friends, okay? And always come back for more videos. See ya!